Hello, everyone. Welcome to We Watch Love Shows. This is Mike,
And this is Kim.
and sorry to break it to you guys, but Baby Flo is sleeping, so she hopefully won't be making any cameos in this episode. But we do have Bonnie, so we'll see if Bonnie has anything to say. So this is our intro episode. So we will have the first few episodes for season 10 of Love Is Blind up here over the next couple of days. But we wanted to go ahead and give you an intro episode to discuss with you guys a little bit about who we are and why we decided to start this podcast.
All right, so I guess we'll just start with, introducing ourselves individually. So my name is Kim. In the first episode of the podcast, I mentioned that I am a professor. I'm a professor of, assistant professor of psychology. And as you can imagine, watching a show and dissecting people's personalities would be a lot of fun for me. In addition to that, I have a lot of things that I enjoy in relation to like hobbies. I have creative things that I enjoy doing. I love being artistic in any way. Um, Thrifting, upcycling, painting, drawing, anything that allows me to not use my analytical skills and stick with my creative skills I enjoy doing on my free time. I also love television and film. And so watching Love is Blind is definitely a passion. And so I'm so excited to be able to dissect this season and share my feedback with an audience.
And my name is Michael. I have no professional or educational background to to support my opinion of the show. I just watch it because my wife has it on in the background, and I'll get sucked into it. So she'll put on the show, and I'm always asking her what happened on the last episode. She's like, just watch it. I'm like, no, just tell me. Just tell me what happened. So this is actually going to be the first season that we watched together all the way through, and I'm just going to be giving my perspective as someone who is married, and then also just kind of draw from some of my dating experience. A little bit about us as a couple. We met in 2019. We actually met online,
Yeah.
and our first in-person date was at Dave and Buster's, and it was just love at first sight.
I mean, in many ways, it wasn't, Love is Blind, but we definitely had a connection without meeting in person. So, in many ways, we can relate to what these couples are experiencing. And I'm sure a lot of you have had similar experiences of dating online and making connections without actually physically being in front of the person. So, we are an example that love does really happen, and when it originates through distance, and not necessarily being physically connected to the person. So um, I feel like our story is an example of uh, the positive results or outcomes that can come from meeting in that way. As my husband said, we met for the first time at David Buster's, and it was instantaneous, and we've just been together ever since. So um, it was just, talking to each other every day, communicating all of the time, through the dating app, and then, of course, just through text message, and then finally meeting in person. Everything that we felt, the chemistry that we had, just through communication over the phone, uh, turned out to be real in person. And so, very similar to with Love is Blind, we're all hoping that the chemistry that these couples have in the pods without actually seeing each other carries over into real life. And so, I think the show has proven that it can happen. We've had couples on there that have made it and have lasted, and I think there's a lot of couples like us out in the real world that have had similar experiences and have made it last. And you can say how long we've been together.
Yeah, mentioned that we got together in 2019 and we got married in 2023. We had a much different experience leading up to getting married than the show, so we can't really relate to it on that front because we didn't move in together until 2021, and then we got married in 2023. So at that point, we were together coming up on 4 years.
Right.
So I think a very healthy approach to getting married. Whereas this show, it's kind of sink or swim. You're either going to make it as a couple or you're going to crash and burn on TV in front of everybody. So I think that it's definitely interesting. I don't know how we would have if we would have ended up in the same position we are now if we had met through the show. I like to think that we would, but I mean, I can't even imagine meeting someone, not seeing them in person for like what was it? Maybe I don't know how long they're in the pods. It's maybe a week or two.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Yeah, about a couple of weeks in the pods. And,
Yep. Yep. And then they have them live together for however long. I think it's not that long. And then then after that, they decide if they want to get married or not. So it's definitely unique, but I definitely enjoy watching the show with you and kind of seeing the interactions between all the different couples. And then it's always funny to see someone who met somebody in one of the pods, and then when they have the reunion, they're like, "Oh, did I make the right choice?" And just to kind of test their bond with the person that they did choose to see if their bond is real or not.
Yeah.
So I find those episodes probably the most interesting, and also the reunions at the end of the show. I mean, I think those are really.
Oh yeah, I think everybody looks forward to the reunion, and also too, I also think that. Being in a relationship that in some ways, some people would say is untraditional, considering how we met. I don't know if it's necessarily untraditional for today's day and age, but untraditional meaning that we met online and communicated for a while before meeting in person. We have a traditional relationship in the sense that we dated and took the slow route, but also being married and being in a relationship for as long as we have, we understand that there are a lot of challenges that you face as a couple, and those challenges can complicate things. And if you don't have a strong foundation from the beginning, it can be very, very difficult to try and overcome those things. So I definitely think that watching it from our perspective, I often wonder, okay, when's the representative going to go away, and when do you start seeing the real individual, and how does this work with merging family and all of these things? So that part I find quite fascinating as well. And for anyone who is married out there and also enjoys watching the show, you understand the complexities that come with being in a coupling and building a life with someone. So in many ways, the show makes it seem like it's pretty easy, but it's far from easy.
Yep. And a bit about our family. So Kim and I have one daughter together. She is, at this point, she just turned 8 months today. And then I have a daughter from a previous relationship. Mm-hmm. So that had its own complications, especially when we moved in together. And we'll maybe bring that up if that's relevant during any of the Love is Blind episodes. So if you're going into a relationship with someone who has kids, there's definitely a lot of conversations that need to be had beforehand, because they can lead to a lot of miscommunication. And most of our fights when we first moved in together were related to co-parenting my daughter. So that's something that you guys definitely need to consider, those of you that are out there and still dating, or maybe you're dating someone right now that has kids and you're just getting to know them. Make sure you have that conversation beforehand and just kind of get a good idea of what the expectation is once you move in together. What is going to be your role in this child's life? What does the other parent's expectation of that look like? Because you guys may be on completely different pages, and then it'd be such a shame for the child to get to know you and you move in together, and then that's the reason you guys break up.
Oh, yeah.
So that's if I was to go back in time, that definitely would be something that I would have suggested to my wife and I, that we had more conversations about that beforehand. But it's one of those things that you figure out over time.
Yeah, and I believe one of the cast members of this season has a daughter. She mentioned that. And how that's an important aspect when it comes to having a love connection with someone. And she's good. She's right about it's good for her to bring these things up and to make sure that that's at the forefront of her mind when she's wanting to find a match. And it is very difficult. Anyone that's been in the role of being a step parent, it's not easy. And so your relationship is going to be challenged in so many ways. In addition to, having challenges with co-parenting at the beginning of our relationship and trying to figure out what was the best way for us to, go about, um, you know, the so anyone that knows what it's like to be a step parent, um, that isn't easy in itself, and so it takes some time to be able to find your groove as a couple. And as my husband said, it may not always look like you thought it would look when you went into the relationship, and so there's a lot of conversations that have to be had around some of these big issues that these couples are facing, and that takes time. Being able to really know how you feel about something until you're in that situation and living it, you really don't know, what it's going to be like.
Yeah, they had that couple last season. Remember, he had the son, and she had a job where she traveled a lot,
Right.
and then she had this fantasy in her head, like, I'm going to come in and I'm going to be this real maternal mother figure for the little boy, and it sounds like that's the reason they broke up. And then she got pregnant right after, which was
Right.
really bizarre.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like she didn't want kids, and then she had her own. So
Yeah.
it sounds like maybe just the step parent dynamic wasn't for her, which is fine because it's not for everybody.
No, and it's a very difficult dynamic to be in. So I would tell anybody it is not an easy role to play, and you have to go in it with realistic expectations of what that might look like, because it does involve multiple people, not just your partner but the child as well. So there's a lot of complexities there. And I will also say, another challenge that we went through as a couple was just getting our daughter here. So we had fertility issues, and these are realistic things that can happen in relationships where you are confronted with either financial, medical issues. It could be family related conflicts. And so, all of these are really, major, areas of our lives that can cause couples to break up. And I would say that for me, the foundation of everything comes back to your commitment to your partner and the love that you have for them, and recognizing too that when you are building a life with someone, you're not going to always be on the same page with everything, but when it comes to the whole book, right, you're headed in the same direction. And so that's what I think is the main takeaway for me when I think about marriage and relationships. It's recognizing that you're not going to always be on the same wavelength when it comes to everything, but the outcome, the ultimate goal, whatever that looks like for you as a couple is should essentially be the same.
Yep. Yeah, and it's all about compromise too, and getting on the same page. So whether that's about money or about kids, if it's about even something as simple as a career aspirations. So maybe one person has it in their mind like, oh, I want to be able to go move up in this company that I'm working for, but that may lead me to having to move to another part of the state or maybe a different city. So that's the more things that you can communicate up front, I think the better. And that's kind of my best advice for anyone out there dating and looking for someone. Just communicate what you're looking for up front, and if you feel like someone is just telling you what you want to hear, you can press them on it, and then just kind of use your best judgment to see if you think they're being genuine or not. Because especially for women out there dating men, a lot of times men are going to tell you what you want to hear because they may be trying to sleep with you or they're trying to manipulate you in some kind of way. So if you're ever in a position too where you're unsure, just don't be embarrassed. Reach out to family, reach out to friends, because even myself, I've been in relationships where I was with someone who was clearly manipulating me, and I was just too close to the situation to be able to see it. Whereas if I had asked someone, I'm sure they would have given me a different way of looking at it. So, yeah, don't be afraid to reach out to others. Even if it's something that you feel like is embarrassing, it could save yourself a lot of heartache and if it's someone who's like trying to scam you, I mean, you could be saving yourself potentially
Oh
financial
yeah.
hardship as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
don't be afraid to reach out to others when you're out there dating. I mean, the more people you can have in your corner, the better.
Oh yeah, and we see that with even on the show sometimes when family is brought into the picture. Once they move in together and they start meeting friends and family, I often question, the our family and friends really giving their sincere perspective on the relationship, and or do the cameras create this sort of um, I don't know, this sort of dynamic where you feel like you have to be, you know, uh, performative with how you feel about this relationship.
Hmm.
And, nobody wants to be on camera showing themselves being unsupportive of a child or unsupportive of a friend. But, real friendship and real family support and love often looks like telling people the truth even when they don't want to always hear it. And so I do have appreciation for the times that when couples are on the show, family is really honest with them about what they think and says, no, I'm not supportive of this relationship. I
Hmm.
don't think this is a good idea. And oftentimes it's kind of proven to be the case. People believe that love defies all, and I do believe that's true. But I also believe that there's the realism that has to be honored in all of these situations, especially when you're in a surreal environment. There's nothing about the show that is common or traditional. So you need someone in your life that kind of grounds you. And I think that that's true even when you're not on a reality show. Sometimes you have to have other people around that can give you a different perspective. And that may mean, the relationship is not the right one for you, or that also may mean that there's just aspects that need to be changed or communicated in that relationship to make it work long term.
Yeah, very well said. And to tie everything up, I guess we could just go over why we started the podcast, and then what we're hoping that people get from it. So, what was your reason for wanting to start the podcast?
I think for me, I just, as you mentioned, I always watch the show. I really enjoy watching it. I find people interesting. I find people's, sort of looking at what they say and how that matches up to their actions. And, understanding what are the things that may inhibit someone from finding love in their lives, um, and how is that rooted in maybe something from their past, their childhood, and how that comes up in their relationships. And so to me, when I look at Love is Blind, I don't see it as just a show about love. I also see it as a show about people and understanding the complexities and the nuances that we often see when we look at the human condition, right? We are all defined by our past. We're defined by, our desires and our hopes for the future. And I think when we watch the show, or when I watch the show, I often am just, caught up in understanding the psychology of the individuals and whether or not these two people can make something work. And I do believe that the show is an opportunity to see that even when faced against all odds, if two people are determined to do so, and that they can make it work, and maybe there's a little bit of destiny in there as well.
Yeah, yeah. So, one of the reasons that I wanted to watch the show with you too is when you started watching all of these when we moved in together, and I noticed you were watching all these
Mm-hmm.
dating shows. I was like, why are you watching? To me, it didn't make any sense. I was like, why do you want to watch these people
Mm-hmm.
struggle to find someone? It didn't. I had
Yeah.
no interest in watching them myself, but as I've watched it from afar, I I get what you're saying. It's interesting to see how people think, and it's also like at times you're watching a car crash, or
Yeah.
a train wreck, because you can clearly see the red flags there, but for some reason this person is just ignoring them. So like one that comes to mind is there was a couple last season, and I can't remember the guy's name. It was the Asian guy with the blonde girl.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
he was an athlete. She was well, she said she was Mormon. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's, but I do remember that she accepted his proposal. He was really excited, but we could kind of see though when they met.
He was a horn dog. He was ready because she was like talking about I want to kiss you all over, and it
Uh,
was just she was just oh man like a succubus. That's how it seemed like it
yeah,
was with her and him, and it was clear to us watching it on TV. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Like this is
yeah.
not
This
going to go
is.
anywhere. And then once they met, like she pretty much just said she wasn't interested, right? Like
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Well, it was a lot of like mixed signals. It was like I'm not interested, but then I'll make out with
Or
you,
yeah, I want to do it off camera, but then
yeah.
off camera, he's like, she wanted nothing to do with me. So yeah, there's a lot of that on the show. A lot of people, I think, just want to get on TV.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of that, but that's one of the reasons that I think I got caught up in it. Is it's you want to see what happens because someone is like in that case, I knew it was going to end poorly, and then every episode it was like ending almost on like a cliffhanger. It's like, what is going to happen to this guy? I just have to keep watching to see what happens. And even once I saw what happened when they both left the show, I then wanted to see the reunion a few episodes later
Mm-hmm.
when they both were met up with the other cast members, and then just to kind of see what happened after that. So I kind of just get caught up in some of the drama, but outside of that, it's fun talking about it. So I'm sure a lot of you listening maybe watch it with your significant other,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Yeah.
fun to be able to watch it and kind of hear each other's opinions about why certain couples are doing some things, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe even just guessing like, oh, I think this couple's gonna last. Or there's been cases too where last season there was a couple. The guy was he was clearly a drunk, and then she she knew that once they moved in together, and that was the reason they broke up. But then it was clear to us as the viewers, like, this guy's probably not going to change. This is who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was the exact reason that they broke up. So it's kind of like a fun game when you watch. I don't think it'd be as fun as I don't think I'd watch it if it was just me, but being able to watch it with my wife, we'll sit there and we'll make comments that are probably not appropriate for this podcast. That's just for us, but we'll
Funny
make
comments.
yeah, we'll make little funny comments while we're watching the show. And unfortunately, a lot of the time that we're right, we'll just guess something's going to happen, and usually that's what it turns out to be. Even if it's in the moment, it seems crazy, like, oh, it's going to end this way, and then it ends up ending that way. So that's part of the fun too. But yeah, I think just being able to do it with you is probably the main reason.
Oh, thank you, baby. And I
Yeah.
think also too the when you talked about like the things that couples will go through when you're watching it and you're in a relationship and you've been in a relationship with someone. I feel like we're kind of like it's still in the early season of our relationship. We have parents that have been together over 40 years, so we're really in the, in the very beginning stages. But when I watch it, you just like the things that people go, oh, like that would, I think I can work with that, or that's going to be okay. Like I don't have a problem. For example, Mike and Emma, when Mike's talking to her about,
Oh, from the
wanting
from
to
the
have a
season 10, yeah.
family, and Emma's essentially, I mean, she's wanting to say what Mike wants to hear, but it's very clear like this is something that she is really not interested in doing. And so she kind of dances around instead of just saying affirmatively, I don't want children. And I think she's more concerned about eliminating her prospects as opposed to just being firm in who she is and saying, it's really not something that I'm interested in. But even for Mike, he's still kind of wanting that, and so you can see how he's like, his whatever boundary he's set for himself. I want someone who wants children. How that boundary starts to waver a bit.
Yeah.
And so, being in a relationship, hey, that's just not going to work. Like, you just have to know that if that's something that's going to be a deal breaker for you, to play that game with yourself and then with someone else. And so we see that a lot on on the show. And I think that'll be interesting to bring up on the podcast is how people start to kind of the rose-colored glasses start to come off, and the things that they say they're willing to put up with, and they start to realize, oh, maybe I'm not willing to make compromises in these areas. That's always interesting.
Yeah, and what I hope people get from the podcast is hopefully entertainment. Kim and I will try to keep it lighthearted and funny, but I'm also hoping that those of you that are out there that are in relationships, or maybe those of you that are out there dating, that will be able to share some of our advice from our own experiences of dating, and even within our own relationship, that hopefully it'll give you some tools to be better equipped in your current relationship, but also as those of you that are dating and out there trying to meet new people. So I'm sure a lot of women out there, or anyone for that matter, is probably curious to hear what it's like from a married couple's perspective. But then even women out there, like, what is this guy think? Like, from a guy's perspective, what are they thinking? So I'll do my best to try to place myself in that person's shoes on the show, and just try to hopefully give you some insight into how guys think when they're dating someone. And maybe that'll help you out as you're out there, in your own dating journey. And
yeah, I mean, I would say the same thing. I think if anything, it's just taking a different spin or perspective on the show. You have, one perspective from the hosts, you have one perspective from the individuals, being able to share what they're thinking and feeling. But I think for a lot of people, they do watch the show and they think about their own love life, and they think about their own relationships. And sometimes we can romanticize what we see. And I think the podcast is a great way to really break down the things that, may seem great surface level, but could be problematic later on. And also the things that seem like a huge deal that can, be worked through. So I'm excited to be able to share our perspective with the audience. And I hope that all of you walk away, looking at these cast of characters from a different angle. And perhaps if it, leads you in a positive direction in your own love life and matchmaking, then I would say we did a job well done.
yep, I agree. Well, we can end on that note.